I worked the closing shift at my local grocery store during my gap year between high school and college. I was a cashier, so I interacted with people pretty much all day long. After around 7 o'clock, though, there would only be a few customers an hour, and during the last hour of 9 p.m., I'd maybe get 2 or 3 customers. Then I had a few things to do, like refill the bags and clean up the counters, and would leave the store at 10 every night. The lead, who also worked in the front end or cashier department with me, had to stay a bit later to empty the registers and count the money, so I'd always be the only one leaving at that time of night. One day, after a regular shift at work, I clocked out and walked to my car in the parking lot. It was late and the only cars in the lot were from the few coworkers still in the store, but someone's car was parked right next to mine and had their headlights on. I walked around to my car and got in, trying to get situated quickly, but I couldn't help but look over and see who it was. When I turned my head, the man in the car was staring right at me. I quickly shifted my eyes forward, but I think that only made things more weird. Knowing he was likely still looking at me, I put the car in drive and got out of there. The next day I was talking with one of the managers at the store and brought up the man in the parking lot. I asked if maybe they hired someone new for overnight stocking, but they said no. I mentioned the weird encounter in the parking lot and we both laughed about it, thinking it was just some coincidence of some sort that someone was parked there. I was off the next day, but the day after I worked the closing shift again, everything was fine and normal. Up until 8. I hadn't had a customer in 15 minutes, so I was kind of just looking off into the store when I noticed a man walking around. He had nothing in his hands and no cart or basket. He was just walking up and down the aisles aimlessly. Once I took notice, I saw him glance over at me several times. I thought I looked weird for watching him, even though I was trying to be discreet about it, so I shifted my eyes elsewhere and tried to not be creepy. A few minutes later, I saw the man in the corner of my eye. He was standing in the aisle directly in line with my checkout lane. I looked over and the man was facing the shelves, but his head was turned and he was staring at me. It was then that I recognized his face and eyes as the man I'd seen in the parking lot a couple days ago. A cold rush went through me as I looked away, but I could see him in the corner of my eye, still standing there. Once he finally walked out of the aisle, I lost track of him and didn't see him in the store anymore. I was the only cashier, so if he had to buy anything, he would have to come to my register. It was 9 o'clock already, and by 9:30 I was sure he had to have left. I had one more customer come through, and then it was time to start closing up. I turned off the register and refilled the bags at all the stations, then asked my lead if they needed help with anything. They declined and said I was good to go, so I headed out. The parking lot was mostly empty as usual, and I was relieved to see that nobody had parked next to my car. I walked steadily across the lot until a sudden beam of light blinded me. Someone turned on their bright headlights, facing right in front of me. I picked up the pace as I heard the car start driving, coming toward me pretty quickly. I got to my car and got in just as the other car sped up to me, then braked abruptly right in front of my car. My heart was racing. I locked the doors and hurried to start my car as a man got out and ran up to my door. He pulled on the handle aggressively, trying to open it. He was rushing, testing the back door too, but then he quickly got back in his car and sped away. I was horrified and in shock. My hands were so shaky I wasn't sure I could even drive. I called the police right away, thinking the man was probably the same man I'd seen staring at me. But all of the security cameras weren't clear enough to make out his face or the license plate, so the case went stale pretty quickly. I haven't seen him since that incident,